So what's new? How was your guys' season?
It was good. We moved up from 6A to 8A. So we knew we were gonna have uh a challenge and we moved up divisions. And we wound up making the Elite Eight,
Yeah.
eventually losing to Loyola.
Damn.
But I did get to meet Pat Fitzgerald.
Yeah. Nice guy.
Super nice guy. There's a guy we used to or I used to coach with who's now on that staff, and like you do the kind of meet at midfield pregame before things start going. So start talking to the guy I used to coach with, and all of a sudden, I'm shaking hands with someone, and he goes, "Oh, I'm Pat Fitzgerald," and I have to like double take, and like, "Oh shit, yeah, you
Yeah.
are."
Yeah. Yeah. He's a he's normal. Like when you
Yeah.
talk, completely normal.
I haven't been like coaching starstruck like that in a while. Um, but it was cool for sure.
Yeah. When I met him at Northwestern, uh, the first interaction was I'm in the O-line meeting room, and what they would do is the O-line coach goes, you know how us O-line coaches have different weird phrases that we say and
Oh
blah
yeah.
blah blah. He goes, so the freshmen every week leading up to the season have to research that phrase and do like a presentation on it. It's like really funny. So he was like, somebody go get Pat. Somebody go get Pat. And I'm like, what? Like, yeah, Fitz will come in here. So he comes walking in to watch this. He watched it and he go, and he just basically said that was the dumbest thing I've ever seen and walked out. And that's I cleaned it up a little bit. That's basically what he said. And he just walked out. And I was like, oh, that's Pat Fitzgerald. Then we go out to the field and he just comes up and talks to us for like 15 minutes. He straight up normal dude, everything, nothing weird.
Yeah, I mean, that whole controversy, I don't really want to touch. I'm kind of surprised as far as suburban Catholic schools, they were cool with him just being like whatever the equivalent of an analyst is, right? Like, I could have very easily seen people being not cool with that.
But they also don't want to lose his son either. So they're like,
Yeah, tomato, tomato.
the only thing I'll say about that whole thing was when I was there with our head coach and our OC and our strength coach, we didn't see anything. Now, would
Mm-hmm.
we? If it happened, if it's true, probably not. But all I'll say is every player came up to us and shook our hands and said, "Sir, how you doing? Coach, how you doing? Nice to meet you." They come on, like everybody was getting a lot. So whatever. Like I didn't see anything, had no vibe of anything. There was no making kids do anything. So take that as you will. And that's what I told people. I said, I'm not saying it happened, didn't happen. When I was there, class A or first class treatment, as soon as practice was over, he talked to the media. Fitz grabbed us and he said, hey, you guys want to go inside? We went inside, walked around the weight room. They're inside. The strength coach had like 18 different types of protein thing in his thing, the whatever. But that's another guy you would think that if you met him, he would be bouncing off the wall. Super normal dude, but like he has a
Hmm.
switch. So he come up to us, of course, no sleeves, talking to us just like this. Then he turn around, run onto the field, and he's all over the place and he's screaming, hooping, hollering. And then he comes back over to us and another foot, he just right back to normal. I'm like, okay, so you don't do cocaine, so I can't figure out what exactly is going on here.
I mean, you don't know that, but
I mean, the amount of protein and pre-workout he had in his office, who knows what was really in there, but it was stacked. But yeah, me personally, I was like, they treated us very well. We sat in meetings. There was no vibe of anything, and I don't know. Don't know.
man, I see you wearing the sweatshirt. I want to hear about this historic season you guys had.
Oh yeah, it was fun. So went 6-3, playoffs for the first time since 2014. Um, we had to go play at Lane Tech, which was awesome. Uh, we played Lincoln Park. We won, and then we realized that was the first road playoff win since '97.
Wow.
Our OC was a senior in high school. He said that was the last time because he
Which
played
is
there.
before any of your players were born.
Oh yeah. And I'm like, oh, so I was 7, 8 years old. That's cool. He goes, yeah, that was the first road one. In 2014, they had a whole. So then we got second round playoff game at home, and it was the first home playoff game since 2014.
Mhm.
Um, should have won that game. I still say to this, like we should have won. We turned the ball over about 4 or 5 times. They were out there two studs because they got in a brawl the week before, so two studs got suspended.
Great.
But we were also out our kids, so it was
Mm.
one of our kids. So yeah, historical run. We started 2-0, and someone told me we started 2-0 for the first time since God knows, I don't even know. It was just everything we did was like ever since then, ever since then. Uh, but the reason why it worked out this way is because we stayed healthy pretty much throughout the whole season. This was like the first time we stayed healthy. We had a break in a quarterback that was a junior that's never played quarterback before. And then our sophomore, we finally just said, hey, you got to do it. So put him in that situation. Uh, and just we had a transfer running back that finally started to pick it up. We had a sophomore that picked up, he was our sophomore quarterback, another one. We put him at running back. He became a good running back for us, going from quarterback to running back. Um, yeah, so just a lot of things went right. Um, and what was weird was we outlasted a lot of people. Like we would come into a varsity game with like 37 players. We just come in. The other team has like 50, 60. Somehow, some way, we would not get tired. Don't and I we stopped hitting as much. We stopped doing a lot of things, and I think that's what kind of changed it a little bit because we didn't get hurt and we were not tired. And even my linemen at halftime would be like, in week 6 or something, they were like, "We still feel pretty good." And I'm like, "Yeah, see, we don't need to hit as much."
Are a lot of your O linemen also playing D?
So I lucked out again. My right guard was also our linebacker. The other four didn't have to play defense.
I think that's so big.
It was huge. This is again first time, even not even rotating like last year, even though again the same kid because it started, they would have to rotate in. So it was really hard to like talk to them because they could come off. I talked to them for like 30 seconds. Hey, they got to get in. So they turn around and go in. This year we were lucky enough. We had a transfer sophomore come in as the D lineman. We had another kid that got stronger that we could live with. And then I had another kid that could probably start offense and defensive line and never get tired, but we just put him on defense. So we just, again, everything just kind of aligned where we have a true quarterback. We have some speed guys. Every single starting offensive lineman at the beginning of the year was a senior. So just all kind of worked out.
That's awesome. I know I was rooting for you guys as I saw like the brackets.
Oh, somebody was like, okay, we're either going to get Glenbard East, we're going to get Lincoln Park, or we're going to get something. We're like, we want Lincoln Park.
Yeah, obviously.
We were like, we want Lincoln Park. And as soon as it happened, we were just ecstatic. I'm not saying it was going to be easy, but we were just like, we would rather play that. Or who else did somebody say? They're like, oh, yeah, maybe you could get like Mount Carmel. And it was like week 8. I was like, no, no, please don't make me go there.
Yeah. For the Mount Carmel or the lower.
The Catholic, like Jordan Lynch, Mount Carmel.
Yeah.
No, no. All of our kids even were like, we're going to get Mount Carmel. And I'm like, no, we're not. No, we're not.
I mean, have you been to their stadium on a Friday night?
I have not been to their stadium.
It is so we played them when it was literally just like building, field, street, right? Like there wasn't
Right.
even room for like bleachers essentially. Like as the box coach, we were like up on the roof of this school.
Jeez.
Um and within a year they transformed that place. It's a really cool place to see a game on a Friday night. We got our asses kicked when we had to play there, but
That,
uh,
that I don't even know.
Friday nights are busy, but it's worth it if you ever get a chance.
Oh yeah, I would love to go see a couple places. I want to go to your guys' place and see it. Just never can.
The worst stadium in the Chicago Catholic League.
Oh, it's better than IC. Oh, Chicago. Never mind.
I mean, well, I guess I haven't seen IC Stadium, but
The,
we have a great view, but our actual bleachers are leave some to be desired.
Well, at IC, I don't know if you've never been to Immaculate Conception. They have their home stands, which are small. The visitor stands are bleachers that they have to roll out there because their football field is connected to the baseball field. So there's no like stands there because of how it's built.
I think De La Salle's kind of like that, I think.
I have to go there for my freshman basketball tournament, Christmas time. Guess who I
That
play
school.
first? I play St. Ignatius first. Here we go.
Uh, I don't know anything about our basketball, especially lower level basketball team.
He showed me the thing and he goes, Steve, you're going to De La Salle for your Christmas tournament. And I was like, okay, who do I play first? And it showed it, said St. Ignatius. And I was like, cool, cool. Oh, I play the winner or loser of Jones College Prep in Fenwick. That's cool. That's cool. Oh, Simeon's in this. That's cool. St. Rita. That's cool. I was like, shit.
How did you guys get roped into that?
Um, our head basketball coach was trying to find a Christmas tournament, I guess, and that's the one he found.
No, I don't know.
And he didn't know who was in it
Hmm.
until the bracket comes out.
Gotcha.
And so last year I was at Downers North, and I thought that was bad playing like those type of schools. And now I'm in this one. I was like, can I go back to Downers North and play those type of schools?
Yeah. De La Salle looks like an IKEA, at least like from the side of their football field.
But no, well then it was a couple years ago. Rochester may have had to have played IC, and I said, hey, I'll go scout them for you because I know they're DC.
Mm-hmm.
So I went there. Their press box is full with their media people, so the actual coaches have to get on like one of those crane or tree things that elevates up. So they're not even in a box; they're on that thing that elevates up.
I'd take that over some of the places I've had to be.
Oh, I've been in a deer tree. I've been in a deer stand.
So first round of the playoffs, we go to Joliet West,
hmm
and we had fairly nice weather the whole time, and it's like I'm always like, well, I'm in the box. Like if it's bad weather, it's not really that bad. Uh, our athletic director slash head coach failed to tell me that like, oh yeah, we don't have access to the box. We're on the roof of the press box,
Ooh,
and
yeah.
it is torrential raining sideways.
Ooh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And so we're sitting there trying to like keep a camera working and like
yeah,
absolute nightmare.
yeah. I've done that in Central Illinois. It was built onto a old telephone pole, and the thing stuck out to the side. So you had to crawl up this ladder to get to the side. And I'm standing up there, and the wind starts blowing, and you're doing this. And I said, I'm going back down. And I got down because I'm afraid of heights. I'm like, I'm going back down. What are you doing? Get back up there. I was like, nope, you cannot pay me enough to go back up there with the wind. And I'm doing this. That thing's going to snap. No, no,
Yeah.
no.
Well, and especially when you have all the like huddle sideline stuff, you're like, I'm carrying 40 pounds worth of gear, right? Between like that and my backpack. I'm like, I'm going to die, right? Because
Mhm.
it's like a slippery ladder you're trying to get up on this. Yeah.
Well, the first round, it wasn't supposed to rain. I was all excited. I was like, we're going to have a playoff game. It's not going to rain. And then as soon as our game started, probably like everybody else starts doing this stuff. And I'm like, oh, this is miserable.
It was nice because Joliet West had like, like a Cinderella, like 8-1 kind of season.
Yeah.
And so like they were juiced to host a playoff game. And like we scored early and it was pouring rain. And by halftime, like their stands were empty.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. We played at Lane Tech's awesome. That
Yeah.
place is, yeah, I'd never been there. Some of the coaches did. And I'm looking around. I'm like, this place is awesome. Our kids were jacked up. They were like, this place is awesome, except the locker room was terrible. It was like the size of my bedroom. And it's like crammed in there. But it was awesome, especially even at the rain. The rain made it look cool. Except that was the most security I've ever seen. Like they had to search my backpack.
As a coach?
Oh yeah, so me and another coach. So like the head coach takes one bus, the OC takes the other bus. All of us just carpool. We get there. You have to walk down that long path to get there. And we walk up the Chicago Public School. There was a bunch of people in red, and they go, "We have to search you guys." And we're like, "Well, we're the coaches." Like, no, 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 we have to search you. And like, if you're on the side, if you have to have this pass on the sideline. If you don't have it, you're going to get kicked out. Blah 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 blah. Now, when they searched me, I just opened up my backpack. I took my hoodie out, and they were like, "Good." Then when our kids got there, they go, "We have to look at their stuff too." And we were like, "Okay, cool." They even people that came in, they had a wand, like the fans, like they wanded them and stuff.
The fans are one thing, right? But like you're telling me, like, you know, two buses, like, hey, I've got 50 kids, right? Like,
Yeah. So we were like, some dumbass kid's gonna have a vape or something, and we're gonna be screwed.
I would just be worried just about like timing, right? Like, we never get anywhere on time anyway, but like, oh, well, now we're 20 minutes behind schedule because
Yeah, we didn't know. Then another thing that made us mad was I think there's a rule you cannot be warming up in the playoffs till a certain time.
you have an hour.
Yeah, so we got there like over an hour early, just me and the other coach, just to get there to like scope it out. Where's the locker room? Blah blah. We get there, the other team out there warming up already. And we're like, the hell we
Yeah. Loyal. I don't know what they like, what the where the line of what actually constitutes working out is, but like Loyola did that to us on our field too.
it was whatever. I accept. I was like, it's their home game. It's at a, whatever. I didn't care, but I was just like, that's why we didn't leave as early because going into the city, we didn't know what traffic was going to be like. So we were in that weird part. We didn't want to show up too early and just be sitting there. So I got real mad. I was like, we could have left early, gotten here, settled in. Oh, well.
Yeah.
But another part of our season that happened was we started a freshman last year on varsity. He played freshman basketball for me, tore his MCL, ACL in his one knee. And we didn't know if we were going to have him back for the season. We thought if we got him back, it'd be like October, like
Mm-hmm.
middle October. And we all decided if we're in a playoff push, he will play. If we're out of the playoffs, he's definitely not playing. And then if he's back and we are in the playoffs, he'll definitely play. This kid healed so quick. We got him back like week 3 or 4. I think it was week 5, I think. We got him back like September.
Wow.
Doctor cleared him, trainer cleared him. Then parents came in and said, we could wait to play him, but it's kind of up to our son. And the son said, I want to play. He is cleared. The trainer put him through all the stuff with us. He was fine. Very first game scores 2 touchdowns. So we're like, okay, he's back. He's fully back. First round playoff game. We throw him a 20-yard pass, catches it. He tries to make this weird move that I've never seen before, gets hit, rolls over, is grabbing his other knee after he gets hit. Can't go back in. Goes get an MRI, tore his ACL and the other knee now. They go do surgery in November. As they're doing surgery, they're like, oh, his ACL is torn and his MCL is torn. So he's torn both and both knees now. And he's 15 years old, about to be 16 years old.
Man.
So when we went to play Lombard East in the second round, we were like, okay, they're out there 2 really good players, but we're also out our really good players. So that's kind of where I'm not saying we would have won if we would have had our kid, but we were kind of like, shit, like it's kind of a line. Like they're out their Division I corner, they're out this other speedster, and we're out our kid. So
Yeah.
we turned the ball over 5 times.
I mean, that'll do it. Even if you had everyone.
Yeah, and it wasn't like we throw like a key screen, we get 4 yards, all of a sudden we get hit, and then boom, pops out the ball. Running back slips, ball pops out. We throw an interception trying to march down the field or whatever it was. It was just back and forth. But it was a close game, so we couldn't ask for anything better. We were the 25th seed. They were the 8 or 9 seed. I used to coach at Lombard East, so all the coaches were still there. I was amped up. But it was a close game, and they were in shell shock. They came down and scored, and then we came down and scored, and then they couldn't get past like the 50 or something, and then we were moving the ball, and I could just tell they were in shell shock of what was going on. And it didn't help that every time they're on offense, if I figured out what they were doing, I was yelling out what they were doing. So I think that pissed them off pretty quick. I was like
We
Connor Stallion. I was stealing. They went no huddle for the first time, but he didn't change any of his signals. So every time he did something, I was yelling to our defense coordinator, it's this, it's this, it's this. And so after the first drive, he was done.
we've had a few instances of that, and like sometimes it's like more trouble than it's worth. And it's like by the time you recognize the signs, communicate it, and like have a plan, you're like the ball's already snapped.
Mhm.
So that's where, I love the Stallions reference.
Well, I
But it's
said it during
like
the
people make such a big deal about stealing signs. And you're like, do you have any idea how chaotic it is like before a play? Like to be
yeah.
able to have a plan to steal a sign and make a change and be able to communicate that to everyone takes forever.
Yeah, I laughed at the whole thing. The whole thing because I thought of that like and I did it myself. So I'm watching his sign steal now. Luckily for us, their no huddle was like not Ohio State speed of no huddle. It's high school. So they're getting the sign for because they did a check with me. They come up, they look, and by that time,
Yeah.
I am seeing it because his signs were real simple. And I'm like, okay, he doesn't like to pass the ball. The running back's to his right. Oh, it's this or this. And I'm
Yeah.
yelling to the defense coordinator. And I'm mainly yelling at the D line, like, this is what's coming.
They're it's so funny, right? Because especially if they're a team that doesn't go no huddle a lot, you're only going to have 4 or 5 things you're going to do, right? You can't change formations, you can't call in motions. You're probably going to run your 4 or 5 best plays, and like
Yep.
that's it.
Well, that's why when I was there, I coached with them. We were a huddle team. If we did do no huddle, it was 2 minute drill, it was whatever. But we had an all state quarterback that could handle every sort of thing. This kid, no offense, their starting quarterback was also their starting middle linebacker. So,
Love that.
oh, I loved
It's
it
so
too.
Wisconsin.
Oh, I loved it. But I also knew then you can't give him everything in that because he's got to do both, you know? So I was watching it and I'm like, hey, it's trap left. It's trap left. Oh, it's wide zone right. And then we were picking up. I think he knew because he could hear me yelling it and they stopped. Never again did he do it the rest of the game. Not once.
Good. Like if you don't have a system to do it, like we our season was so up and down. Um our 5-star kid gets hurt like first drive, game 2. He goes out, our quarterback goes out. We wind up, I think we counted like between our starting quarterback and the backup quarterback in that entire game. I think we put the ball on the ground 9 times.
Wow.
Like we recovered 5 of them, right? But
Yeah.
you can't overcome
Right. You
or
can't.
turnovers against like a big rival. It sucked. But Justin winds up coming back in a week or two, but we only bring him back on defense. We basically he doesn't play offense most of the rest of the season, and we have to start a sophomore,
Yep. Yep.
who, to his credit, held his own
Yep.
awesomely, and like we never bring Justin back,
Mm-hmm.
um, which makes him an even bigger monster on defense. But in a well, then we get to a second round playoff game against Huntley.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know why teams that are bad at passing insist on passing the ball because they could have run us off the field because they had a huge running back, right? Like hard to stop, a good like kind of USC Lincoln Riley style, a lot of counter, and just with a big kid that was hard to bring down, right? At 5 yards, 5 yards, 5 yards, and these coaches just get impatient and they're like, oh, now let's throw 2 incompletions. And it's like, oh, well, now we stop them at 3 and it's 4th and 4 and you're punting the
Mm-hmm.
ball. I don't get it. Do you guys see that like epidemic of people passing when they shouldn't be?
Yep. I don't know if it was this year necessarily, but I remember last year there was a team that if they would have kept running the ball, we never would have even compete. We lost, but we never would have competed. But they would run it, and then all of a sudden, their next 2 series in a row, where they're trying to air raid it out, and they're dropping it, or we would tip it, or whatever would happen. And I'm like, thank God they're not running the ball. Thank God. Or even last year, we played a team. We were down 21-0 and they come out throwing it for us and I was stopping the clock and we're like perfect and then they started to run it again in the second half but since they got away from it they were fumbling it and all this other stuff and all of a sudden it's 28-28 and we were like perfect. And I thought that this year there were some teams that I thought could have they would have just kept running it we would have been in trouble. But sometimes us coaches outsmart ourselves.
God, do we? Uh, what class are you guys in the playoffs again?
We made it to 7A this year.
Oh, okay. Oh, right, because you said Mount Carmel. That makes sense. Um, we played Naz, I think week 5, and they were 0-4 coming into the game, but their losses were to like Mount Carmel, St. Francis, like 4 powerhouses. And so we're trying to, like, our kids are making light of it, sort of, and we're like, guys, this is the best 0-4 team you are going to play.
Mm-hmm.
Their quarterback was lights out. To on the flip of what we were just saying, like he probably had like 3 incompletions the entire game.
That's crazy.
And probably one of the best high school quarterbacks I've ever seen. And then they went from 0-4 to winning a state title.
I couldn't believe that. They went 4-5. You're playing against a couple Addison kids on that team. Just
Oh,
so.
really?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's the whole private public debate because they come to our youth stuff on our property and wear their shit and try to get the kids right then and there. And it's annoying when they come on our property while practice is practice. Or when games go on, they try to get onto the field on the sideline. And our head coach is there and he goes, "Get the hell off the sideline." That's because the guy running our youth program is buddies with all of these people.
There
It
we go.
doesn't help that we have a guy running a gym in town. He wants to make money. So what does he do? He promotes how he has guys going Division 1 from a private school. So then he promotes that. Then we might as well just open the can of worms because then kids will come tell us, "Hey, we're working out at some gym," and a coach comes in there and says, "Hey, we should go play football at IC or we should go play football here." And so our head coach went to the gym and confronted this guy. Like just walked in, went up to the counter and goes, "I'm walking in. I don't care. I'm going to that guy." And just bypasses everything. "What the hell are you doing talking to our players? Blah, blah." And he goes, "That's not what I said. Blah, 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 blah." Like it was just, and that's what we battle.
Oh, I mean, I get it. Um, it's tough. Don't have as many guys transferring in, but like current high school guys, no, right? Like I don't know how any football staff has time to do that, like in season.
So I don't care who hears this. I have no proof of anything. I don't really care. Um, we got told that at one of our football games, there was people in the stands that were hired by private schools to go to the game and find a disgruntled parent and put the dots together and like talk to them. And it was another school in our conference that told our head coach, "Hey, we caught this happening in one of our home games, and we know for a fact at this game they were at your stadium because you guys all of a sudden were like 4-2, and they wanted to see why." And then we're hearing rumors about how they're offering to pay people like $10,000 to go do this.
I don't make $10,000 on the year. Like, what are?
This is why when the whole Twitter thing of public versus private, that's why people could see I was stirring the pot on purpose.
Yeah.
But actually, when I hear these things and I see them get done, so my whole thing with public versus private is it depends on who you are and your situation. So I thought about this. I was like, I don't want to piss off Coach Carrick because I know he's not doing this shit. Coach John Grayson, who's the DC at Montini, I was like, I know people that do the right thing and they don't do the shady stuff. Like I know who they work for. It's the other private schools in the area that do the shady stuff because we've seen it and then we get told. Now, do we have proof? Not really, but the fact that it gets told to us, we're like, there has to be something close to that happening.
There is a little bit of like where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah.
Like Maine South getting popped last year.
Yep.
And I have a feeling I know the school or schools you're referencing.
Yeah, you've seen a couple of them already.
Yeah. It's there are reputations, I think, even amongst the Catholic schools of like the different styles of how people like to approach the rules.
Yep. Yep. And a head coach of one of the schools you played, no, maybe you didn't play. A head
Probably
coach at a
not.
school we were talking about, a lot of people don't like him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And our head coach got to be around him at the Bears game for winning head coach of the week. And he came back and he goes, it was really funny because the other coaches I was with that one that are public saw how he acted and we all went and hung out over here and he went that way.
Yeah. I believe that.
And what he said in the paper, I know what he meant by it, but I was the asshole that wanted to stir the pot and I posted a big thing about it. And then people started commenting at me saying, keep coaching at your shit school with your shit kids. And that's when I got mad and I said, you can call me something. You could say something about the building. But as soon as you say shit kids, that's where I have to step in and say,
It's like it's so disheartening, right? And yes, like Twitter's a cesspool. Um and I is there a right answer to the public private thing? Like, no. But
no,
like, you got public schools have their issues, private schools have their issues. Um they intersect in a few places. Um and you're definitely not going to find something that makes everyone happy.
no, because we said that all private schools should go off on their own, is what we said. But then somebody brought up a good point. Okay, let's say the IHSA comes out and says, okay, private schools, you're going to have your own playoff. Public schools, you're going to have your own. What are you guys all going to do? You're going to leave the IHSA then. You're going to say, well, if we're not in the big part, we're all just going to leave. And then when that happens, the recruiting will just blow up because nobody's going to be
Over,
regulating any of
yeah.
it.
And
So,
and the thing, it's the same thing with like college and NIL stuff. It's not just football, right? It would be all sports
yeah. Yeah. Like right
getting
now,
pulled.
football dominates it. But yeah, you're right. If that happens, then it's going to be everything.
I'm sure you saw the tweet from the Antioch head coach
Well,
after they lost to Carmel.
that's what got me fired up. I
Yeah.
was like, I want to stir the pot some a little bit.
It's like, dude, what a bad look.
He does it every year, though. Every single year. I did find it funny when the DC there posted the map, and when a private school won, he had a circle of like a 40-mile radius around where the school is, and he goes, "Congratulations to all these communities that just won a state title." And I was like, "That's funny." I laughed.
Yes, and
Yeah,
right. It's like, and then if they're kids from your district, they had a chance to play for your team for free and decided to go pay to play somewhere else.
that's kind of where I do this on purpose again to piss people off. But it is
You're not going to piss me off, Steve. We're good enough friends at this point, I think.
well, no, I mean like I piss people off on purpose. Like I'll retweet those, and I'm like I just want to stir the pot a little bit. But again, it comes by people's situation. So some public schools around us don't deal with certain schools going to their youth thing on their property trying
Yes.
we have that problem. So we have a different look of what's going on with us. When I was at like Glenbard East or East Aurora, yeah, Glenbard East sometimes would lose a kid to like Montini, but it wasn't them coming to that place because there's so many different youth programs around the Lombard area and stuff. So it didn't really matter. Um, and then what happened with Glenbard East? Well, they're winning now. So now it kind of evened it out where do you want to go to Glenbard East for a public school and win or Montini and win and save, so it didn't matter. Addison, they haven't won for so long. So that's kind of where that happened. But now
Yeah.
that we went to the playoffs, there's already a kid that should have came to Addison last year is now talking about trying to come back. And the thing that pisses me off is that happened last year. A kid was a freshman, was leaving. He either was going to go to Lake Park High School or Addison. Just kind of depends on where they were going to move to.
Yeah.
They already lived in the Lake Park thing, but dad wanted him to go to Addison. So they were going to get an apartment and just hop over. Mom didn't want to live in Addison. But when that kid left this private school, We saw the text message how the coach was like cursing at him in a text message saying like, "You're nothing. Thanks for abandoning us," and all this stuff.
I, uh,
And I'm like, imagine me as a public school person. If I said that in a text to a kid, I would have been fired.
uh, A, we're not supposed to be texting kids straight off the bat.
Yeah.
Uh, I'll leave that diatribe for a different conversation. But like everyone's situation is different. And unfortunately, our profession brings in a lot of dick bags.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
like, why would you do that to a 16-year-old kid? Or I mean, I'm assuming he's 16, right?
Yeah, he
Like
was a
what,
fresh.
15 to 18?
Yeah, he was a freshman. This is his sophomore year, so it was went again. What's slowly going to start happening though is at least in our at least for Addison Trail is some of these kids are going to these private schools. They're getting there. Oh, I'm third string though because this kid coming in from this town or two kids come from a different state. Like, oh, I'm going to then have to leave because we're not playing.
Yeah, there's a delicate balance there for sure. Um, it is, I know with us, right? So I will not speak for all private schools. But again, like we're not out recruiting. We don't give athletic scholarships.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so like when you see people talk about all these things, like, oh, they just like let people in because they play football. Our admissions department does not care, right? Like, so we have to know when we're talking to kids or they're interested, like, can you get into the school at all? And they do not take that lightly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which that's why I wanted to tell you face to face when I was posting on Twitter. I was like, I know that's why I had to post this and I didn't say names. I was like, I know people that do things the right way. So when I say these things, it's not directed towards everybody. Because I told our head coach cannot stand private schools because of the shit he's dealing with. And so I brought up St. Ignatius or something. And he goes, that's a private school. I'm like, yeah, but do you really hear anything bad about St. Ignatius and doing these things? And he goes, I guess not. And I was like, see, these other schools that we're dealing with, every public school is coming out and talking about X, Y, and Z and what they're doing. And so this is what we're dealing with. And so, like I said, if the parents, I think it's one thing if the parents were like, hey, you're just going to go to this school, not because you're getting recruited, just because, hey, I want you to go to the school and you can play football, whatever. If it's the parents, whatever. We can't be mad. But the other argument is there's public school coaches doing the same thing. They're being
Yeah.
just as shady. So that's where the other argument came in on Twitter was like, but this public school's doing this. And I don't get in that conversation
Oh, no, 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 no.
because we don't. I don't even want to sniff that. I don't, I've never talked to a kid about coming to the school. I don't even know how to do that.
It's weird.
I can't
Uh,
do it.
also, our kids pay tuition like double what I paid for college.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So,
Crazy.
uh, yeah.
Well, that's why I remember when I was at Lombard East, we played West Aurora. And if we beat them that year, we were going to go undefeated. And I remember Michigan was there recruiting. A bunch of other Big Tens were on the sideline recruiting for this kid that was on West Aurora's sideline or on the team. We made him look silly. He was a defensive lineman. He subbed out a couple times. All of a sudden, like we won 17-13. And to this day, even being around some college games, this was the hardest hitting game I've ever like been a part of. Next, he's a junior. That next offseason, he transfers to go to a private school because he wants to win a state title. And he's like, so I'm going to go.
Oh, I don't know if that's better or worse than going to like IMG, like your senior year.
Yeah, that's
But
true.
like, if you've been at a place and like built this social capital and like been a part of the program for 3 years, like, I mean, a state title ring is great, but like it's not going to get you any closer to like a scholarship. And like you
Well,
said, you may not even play.
they went 8-1 that year. Their only loss was to us. So it wasn't like they had a horrible season. They were a really, really good football team. And he goes to this private school, and I think they got bounced second round. So it was like, oh, so you went there. I can't remember what private school it was. He's like,
Yeah.
didn't even do it. And I'm like, okay, so your parents left, took you there, and they paid $25,000 for you to get bounced out of the second round. That's cool.
No, like you said, like if they had some connection, if there was something academically, right? Like you don't understand, like everyone's situation's different. But like if solely the reason to transfer was to try to win a state title, like yeah, that feels pretty good for him to get bounced early.
Yeah. Because like for your guys' school, I would like to assume that reputation brings kids in, kind of like there's connections that
Yeah,
are
yeah.
coming in.
It's run like a small university. It's terrifying.
Yeah. And I would like to think some of the private schools around us would do that, but they are so into winning that they're going to go get these kids no matter what. Well, like I drive to work. I'll see two private school minibuses driving through town, and I'm like, I know they're going to go pick up kids, take them to school. And I'm like, this is sickening that I'm watching this happen.
I used to see it when I lived in the city.
It, I don't get it. And like, I don't get it.
I
I
mean,
don't know.
I grew up a public school kid, like in Michigan. Like I didn't understand, right? I was like, wait, I've got like a school right here. Why would I need to go to private school? Like, didn't really
Yeah.
understand it. My wife went to private school downstate,
Mhm.
and like it wasn't until I started coaching at a private school, I was like, okay, I guess I understand um the value proposition, which is a nerdy business term, but I can see why people do it.
Yeah, I could. I don't know if my parents would ever do it. They're like, I gotta pay how much to send you to high school?
Sorry. And the next caveat to that is like athletics has nothing to do with it. Like if you're transferring and doing that just for athletics, like I feel like that's a bad investment.
Well, a lot of private schools around us, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Is now, but they're careful with their wording though, very careful, and then they get funded by donors.
From the school side, yeah. But I'm saying as a family or as a player, right? Like if
Oh
the
yeah,
only reason
yeah.
I'm transferring from my public school to my private school is to win a state title or for athletics, like that's not a good reason.
But that's what's happening, at least around the suburbs here, is we're not when we hear about this, it's not even academics. It's all football driven. And that's just stuff we're hearing about everything that's going on. It's not even educational purposes of this. Like one of the private schools had York on their schedule and then dropped them and then went around town and said York's the one that dropped them. And I know the head coach personally at York. So I texted him. I said, "Hey, what are you doing dropping teams? You afraid?" Just messing with them. And he goes, "They dropped us." So I went out and picked up Naz. I ain't scared. And I was like, okay.
We have I get like a friend of the staff, right? You know, like a friend of someone on the staff who works
Yeah.
at York, and like I nothing but respect for them. I think they generally do things pretty well
Mm-hmm.
and have been super successful.
Mm-hmm. The past 2 years. Yep.
It, yeah, I don't know. Also, at the same time, like I used to follow like college football recruiting really close and realize like, oh, maybe I shouldn't let like the decisions of 16-year-old kids like influence how I'm feeling on a given day. And then you imagine as like a high school freshman, like what motivates them a
Mm-hmm.
little bit different and probably not altogether rational.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't know. That's the whole private public thing is I understand private, you might get a better education, I guess, because of the smaller class size, whatever, whatever. But what motivates a lot of this is been football. Some basketball too, but I've also seen in the flip side. Um, we just played basketball game. They had two private school kids transfer from their private school to a public and play very well. And so that's the whole argument of that side of it. But I also think in public, I think if a kid transfers to private, like the coach has to sign off on it or something so they can play right away. It's something like that. And I remember all of us were like, we're never signing anything. So they're stuck. They're stuck.
Yeah, I luckily I haven't had to deal with that. Also the nice part of being an assistant coach, we can both sit here and just bullshit about this, but it's like at the end of the day, we don't really have to deal with it.
Oh no, I don't. I see what happens. I hear what happens. I give my suggestion or I complain and then I leave. I'm like, I have no control. Um, like literally our head coach brought his family. They were sitting because our youth program uses our practice field to practice on. They use our actual varsity game field to play their games on Sundays, which is awesome. I think that's amazing. So they
Yeah.
get that feel. He brought his whole family. He looks down and he sees two people from a private school and then one of the 7-on-7 travel people walk through the gate onto the
Oh,
sideline. So he walks down and he goes, are you guys coaches with the youth team? And they go, oh no, we just know the guy that runs the whole youth thing. And he goes, oh, that's cool. Get off the field and go to the bleachers. And they're questioning him. He goes, well, I'm the head football coach here. So you need to go. And I guess one guy stood up and puffed his chest out at him and started going. And he's like, are we trying to fight right here in front of these kids and these parents and blah, blah. He goes, get off the field, or I'm going to call somebody and get off the whole property. Like, get off the field.
right. Again, 7-on-7, also a completely different
Well,
thing that I hate.
well, you're going to hate us. He put money aside for the spring for our kids to do like a 7-on-7 thing, but it's like just on Sundays. It's just to go play a game or two and then leave. Like it's just
Okay, let me retread. I don't think all 7-on-7 is bad, right? Like if your guys are going to go 7-on-7, right? It's team building. You can probably work on some offensive concepts, right? Like that has value. But a lot of these 7-on-7 teams that are kind of like all-star teams, like, hey, come
oh
and
yeah,
you'll
yeah,
get like
yeah,
looked at by colleges and we'll do
yeah.
tournaments all around the country.
Yep.
Like we've had kids come back from that and be worse.
Yeah, no, the thing that our head coach wants to do is like, hey, you guys are just gonna go. You're gonna compete against two teams that are all just our high school. You're gonna go somewhere on a Sunday, play two games for like 4 weeks, and that's it. It's just in the spring to kind of take pressure off of us. Like, hey, they're gonna go do football stuff. They're not doing baseball. He put money aside. It's not very expensive, and he's like, hey, they're just gonna go do this. I think it'd be kind of cool. And we're like, yeah, that sounds cool because you can't really coach them, in the spring.
Yeah.
You can kind of, but it can't be like,
So as like a team thing like that, totally cool. If it's like an individual thing or like someone is trying to make money off of them, then I'm against it.
mm-hmm. Well, it's like travel ball, but that's what's going to happen. It's going to be travel football. That's flag football. That's what's
I
coming next.
I, I hope not. Right? Because it's not the same sport, right? Like you can play hockey year round and it's the same sport, but like playing flag football is not the same sport.
No, but that's what's going to happen next.
And then you got a bunch of wide receivers. They're like, yeah, but I did this on 7-on-7. It's like, yeah, but you can't block. And like, I need you to do that more than I need you to catch.
Mm-hmm. Like even
Mind
us,
you, selfishly.
even though we were like a pistol spread team this year, I'm not telling you we were throwing it, we were running it, and we were like, you've got to block.
Yeah.
We run a lot of those tight bunch sets. You'd be so happy. Like we put in shifts to be unbalanced in our playoff game. We were unbalanced, running the ball and have that other lineman move over. You've been so proud of us. We were unbalanced. We were doing, but the beauty of it was didn't do it at all until the playoffs. That was the best. We had all these shifts in. We had stuff that we practiced all year. Didn't do it one time until the first round playoff game.
I love those things when people are like, oh, did you just like draw that play up in the dirt? And it's like, no, we've been practicing that for 9 weeks. We just, break glass in case of emergency, like needed it.
Yeah. Well, that happened in the playoff game. We lost our guy. Um, we started to stall out on some drives, and I looked at our OC. I was like, "It's time. Like we have to bring out these shifts." So in one drive, we did nothing but shift. We had all three shifts to shift to different things, and it was never to spread them out. It was just to get unbalanced or just to get an extra blocker. And they had kept having to call timeouts, and we were like, "Here we go." So our next playoff game, get unbalanced. They all shifted to that side for some reason, and
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Okay, let's start off in that, then bring
And
it
then
to
go
the other
back.
side, and then go." And like we practiced it, and because that was part of it, and it was fun. And I remember some kids were like, "When are we going to shift? When are we going to? We're practicing this." And I try to tell the kids, if we don't have to do it in a game, we're not going to do it.
We won't. We love, like, if we know how a defense is setting their front, right? Like we'll set the strength to the boundary,
Yeah.
have them put, their like star D tackle or star D end on one side, shift away from it.
Hmm.
And then either they have to shift their whole D line, which then we're just going to run something quick, or they're going to stand still. And now we know where we're running to.
Well, then ours was always like we were a huddle-ish team this year. So when we did do, because like our receivers could kind of be out of the huddle and kind of see the signals to the quarterback, but everybody else was in the huddle, so the quarterback could tell the lineman. So sometimes the receivers, if they didn't get back, that was fine. They knew. But when we did the shifts, we were no huddle. But we had other no huddle things besides shifts, so they never knew. But when we got to the playoffs and we went no huddle, the Lombardies are like, "Oh, they're shifting." So it was always a check with me. We could do a quick check with me. So if they already kind of cheated, we'll just run away from them. So that was the best. We just saved all that for the end.
uh, I guess my favorite break glass in case of emergency I think I've ever had happen this year. Um, Maybe you probably saw the videos when we had Justin Scott running the ball.
Oh yeah. What a man child.
Yeah, 5-star D tackle, D end, 6'5", 315. Yeah, we put that in a few weeks before, and it took a lot of convincing. But finally, our head coach is like, "All right, let's take a look at it." And you see the footwork, and you're like, "Okay, like
Hmm.
that's terrifying. This could work." And I
Hmm.
think he was coming back from injury too, right? So it's like we're not trying to overdo it. Like we definitely don't want him to get nicked up in practice.
Right.
But we kept bringing it along. And then the week 9, last week of the season for the division title at JCA,
Hmm.
we're like break glass, right? We're like,
Yeah.
it's time. And you saw, like, it was almost like their defense saw a ghost, right? They just go, like, the first time they're like, haha, like whatever. And he like
Right.
bowls some kid over.
Right.
And they're like, oh, this isn't a joke. And you see like their souls leave their body and they want nothing to do with it.
That's awesome.
Um, and again, another like underrated coach thing that an average fan doesn't realize is like every player has like their stamina bar, right? Like mana or like Madden.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, we can't like overuse him on offense, or he's like not going to be as good on defense. And it's like that balance of how do
Mhm.
you keep someone healthy while still being able to run the ball.
Where did he go? Where's he going to college? Is this the
So he was committed to Ohio State up until about 2 weeks ago, maybe. And then flipped to Miami.
okay?
Uh, Allegedly, his signing ceremony is Tuesday. So that will, I guess, make that official.
That's awesome that he left Ohio State. Good for him.
I, I
For him.
I had nothing to do with that before people start coming at me, because I wouldn't have had him go to Miami. But
No, because somebody kept telling me a kid from St. Ignatius went to Auburn, and
no,
that's why I didn't know if it was that kid.
no, 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 no. Uh, let's see. Justin's obviously our biggest. Like, we've sent kids to Yale, Johns Hopkins, John Carroll. Where else recently? I'm forgetting. Oh, Fordham.
Mhm.
Um,
Yep.
but no, we like Justin is one of one.
Yeah. That I'm so proud of him for leaving Ohio State. So proud.
I wish I had like inside info for you. I haven't actually gotten any info other than just it happened, and I didn't have any heads up. All of a sudden, my phone starts blowing up from people I know, being like, "What's going on?" And I was
Yeah.
like, "I have no idea."
I had nothing to do with this. Uh, well, you never know anymore with the transfer portal and this money. Like, name it, you never know.
There and so I guess that's a decent point. I mean, we've pontificated about other kind of issues in the sport. Watching and having like a 5-star kid has kind of been eye-opening, right? Because not only did we have like college coaches from every school in the country come through the building
Uh,
and come to practice, but like there's national writers from Rivals and On3 coming to practice. Um, some you talked about like the gyms, people doing that, and you're like, you see people wanting to get like their hooks into
yep.
like getting in that inner circle. People were sending him uh newspaper clippings for him to like sign and send back with a self-addressed envelope. And you're like, this is insane.
Hmm.
Like, I couldn't imagine trying to be a high school student and have to put up with all of that. And mind you, everything he does on social media, right, is scrutinized. And
Yep.
he was not throughout the process, like NIL was not, we'll say, one of the top um, factors in his decision making process.
Right.
Um, I don't know if that changed. I don't know what happened, but it's a big business.
Yeah. It's, I've never had that happen, but
I
just,
probably won't again, honestly.
but from talking to college coaches and what they're having to do is insane. It's become like they told me, like, hey, a kid will come to campus and instead of wondering what the campus looks like, what's the offense, what's the defense, it's how much money am I about to make. That's what it's happening.
Yeah, and so similar with the high school thing, I'm sure there are coaches that do it right.
Mhm.
Um, and I know like Michigan and a lot of other schools, right? That bag isn't at the front end. It's like, hey, we're gonna pay you to stay,
Mhm.
right? And like whether that's like from the draft or not, or transferring or not, like as you become have a bigger role on the team, right? That those opportunities grow.
Right. Right.
Um, and God, how many players have we seen that have like, what, Jaden Rashada, was he the quarterback at Florida that said like basically
Oh
like the
yeah.
check didn't clear?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I, I'm sure there are coaches out there promising these kids the sun and the stars, and it doesn't come through.
No. Um, the head coach at Colorado State, he said something about having to come up with like $600,000 for their guy to stay. He doesn't want to be a farm system. They can't compete. I know Coach Mummy there, talked to him on here. I haven't talked to him about that stuff, but like, I don't even want to ask them because I guarantee they don't even know where that money's coming from.
No, nor probably do they want to.
Or yeah, they don't want to. They're
Oh, also, but like, have you been to Fort Collins, Colorado?
no, I haven't.
Oh, I would like quit my job right now and move to Fort Collins and be in charge of like recruiting their own players. It is beautiful. It is full of breweries.
Mm,
I am a Fort Collins stan, so at least like they got that going for them,
yeah,
right?
right.
But I don't. The NIL stuff's going to be gross, and if we haven't talked about it, or I haven't rambled about it, I think the next thing we're going to see is a bunch of kids getting popped for tax evasion when they don't pay taxes on that NIL.
Oh, that's a
Uh,
good point. That's a
yeah,
phenomenal point.
I I don't think we're teaching that in our high school civics classes.
No, no, we're not. Some probably do, but it's probably like, hey, for one semester, you're going to learn this. And like, I told somebody the other day, I don't even understand how all of it works.
I,
I don't get it. I just know
I
it
would,
comes out of my check.
but like it probably, I would assume NIL earnings are going to be like a 1099, right? So you're going to have to pay taxes on every dollar of that.
Yeah, well, you got to pay taxes. You're gonna have to have the agent to pay.
Well, you've got to declare it
And
first.
you got to
Like,
declare it.
yeah.
Yes. I didn't even
Uh,
think of
yeah, I think it's going to be really ugly coming here soon.
that. I did not think of that.
Yeah, now the wheels are going to turn yeah, it's bad.
Well, what did Chip Kelly just say? Like football needs to be its own thing,
Yeah.
which I said this like a year or two ago. I said at some point, football, I said this on here, and I could have been wrong. I said football is going to break away from the NCAA and kind of be its, because like Alabama can live off of their name.
Correct.
Michigan could live off of their name. Now, like Illinois, would they could live off their own name? Maybe not as much. It'd be okay. But Eastern Illinois, they can't live off their name. There's not enough.
Well, and a lot of it is the non-revenue sports, right? Because everything is about like the college football media deals is where like the
Yeah.
money is coming from.
Yep.
And all of a sudden they're going to realize like, hey, sending the crew team from Eugene, Oregon to Piscataway, New Jersey, however many times a year they have to do that, probably doesn't make financial sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not that I'm a Big Ten person or anything, but theoretically, they're still student athletes, right? Being like, oh, hey, you're going to take multiple cross country trips midweek while you have class stuff going on.
Yeah. And you have to keep that GPA just to even be in the school. You don't have that. You cannot play. But even though you're making money, which could they hide all that? Absolutely. There's take a class in North Carolina, you'll find out that you don't really need
Well,
that.
too soon. Uh, did I see NIL is now legal for high school kids in Illinois, right? Did I see that?
Yeah, somebody told me that, so I looked it up, and they said Illinois was going to be like there. So that's why somebody, when I was looking at the private public, somebody said that, like, well, what about name, image, and likeness for high school public kids?
It's disgusting, and I don't really want to touch it. But if you want to benefit for the private school, like there's money to be thrown around. I'm sure in some capable deal, but I like no one thought that the college football NIL universe would have kind of exploded the way it did. I can't imagine at the high school level.
Especially if it leaks into like Texas and you're doing all that.
Uh, Texas football is a different animal, right? But you think the public private debate is ugly now? It could get a lot worse.
Oh, yeah, because we can't, our high school can't pay kids.
No,
We're considered low income. We're like 60% considered low income. Like, you think we're going to pay kids?
I again like there's the what NIL was made to be. Um, I don't think anyone wants like a nerdy high school freshman to be like on a car dealership commercial. Honestly, public schools might be better off for that if they're like, I could imagine like maybe smaller downstate school, like a Rochester, maybe. I'm picking that out of the blue, right? But like maybe you have some community ties where like the actual community name, image, and likeness means something. But
Yeah, because before I saw any of that this year, I knew that sponsorships were happening. So, like a Nike could give a school money. We are
yeah.
like, I know like Batavia, they have Adidas everywhere. And I'm like, good for you. Our head coach even talked to like BSN, and BSN said, we will give you Nike or Under Armour jerseys. We'll cut you a check. All you got to do is your school is now sponsored by X, Y, and Z, and you put stuff everywhere. That stuff was happening, and like you could sell that brand as a school and a team. That part didn't bother me. I'm like, that makes sense-ish because that's just kind of where we're going.
And you're supporting a school, like that's different than it going to like individual athletes.
That's where when I saw that, I go, so wait a minute. What if this Ford dealership says, hey, goes to a kid and says, hey, you're going to be in our commercials and sign stuff, but you got to go to this school. And you tell mom and dad that. And like,
Oh,
that's what I'm afraid of.
yeah. And we have weirdly enough a close relationship with Rydell. Um they like came and filmed a bunch of like practice stuff and did interviews afterwards. I have no idea how they're going to use that, but like Gatorade, that makes sense,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Or like
but
East St. Louis had a documentary on them years ago, like 2016 by Fox Sports. I wonder how they got money for that because there's a whole documentary.
and like, is that going to the school? Is that going to the athletic program? Is that like if it is helping the school and helping the athletic program overall, I'm cool with that. But when you're talking like individual players are and like that is steering enrollment decisions,
Yeah.
I hope we don't get to that point.
Um, uh, the student may not use any member school facilities in association with name, image, and likeness activity. The student may not engage in name, image, and likeness activity during school hours while traveling to or from any IHSA event
Good
or
luck.
or during an IHSA event, including any practice, rehearsal, meeting, game, tournament, or similar event. The student may not engage in name, image, and likeness activity associated with game, gambling, alcoholic beverages, tobacco, cannabis, banned or illegal substances, firearms, or other weapons.
Fine with that.
This was written in December of 2022 for Illinois. Uh,
Is that for high school or college?
High school. It says the policy in Illinois
Yeah.
mirrors many states that have changed their handbooks. In the new policy, it's permissible for the student athlete to financially gain from the use of their name, image, and likeness. Blah 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 blah.
I other than just like funneling money to kids, I cannot come up with how getting high school kids to do something is going to be that smart business wise.
Yeah, Illinois policy change adds other populace to the state. Football and basketball talent that could attract businesses and other brands. I don't even understand. This was
I
on this was on 1-3 or whatever, so I kind of trust it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was in 2022. See, we don't even talk about it. I didn't even know.
But like, are we gonna have high school collectives?
That shit. That's a whole other thing.
My wife's cousin works in high school development, and I was like, "Are we doing anything? Like, this is a thing. Like, it might be coming."
Student athlete may not use IHSA name, logos, or trademarks in association with receiving compensation or imply that NCAA approves.
No one cares about the IHSA.
They don't. I had Coach Yos on. He's the head coach at Burlington Central. They run that fist football O-line training. Talked to him earlier today. We were talking about the districts and stuff like that, and like we don't know where that's going. And I said something about the IHSA has no leadership, and he was like, "Yeah, yeah."
I mean, that's not going to pass, right?
It passed a couple years ago, and then they finally saw a rough draft after the fact, and so then everybody hit the pause button, tried again. Everybody voted no, so now it's coming back. Me and him were talking about it. Our head coach kind of wanted it at first, and then we saw like the projection. It's only like 70%, right? We saw who we may have to play. And he goes, oh, never mind. Like, we don't want any part of this.
Yeah, that's. I mean, mind you, the Catholic League like obviously wants to keep playing each other.
Mhm.
Yeah, I saw a few drafts of who we would play, and you're like, wait, we would just like sleepwalk to the playoffs every year.
Mhm.
Um, I, I don't, I'm sure there are schools that would probably potentially help. I don't know who they are.
Well,
I don't think it's us.
I remember when they talked about it. The only way it makes sense is kind of the suburbs, kind of, because they're so close together. When you go where I'm from and in your own conference, you're already traveling 30 minutes anyway because of location. Now you're about to change this district thing for the whole state. Like, for example, me and him were talking. If you look at like Edwardsville, East St. Louis, Bensonville, they projected them to be with the Plainfield schools. So it's like you're going to drive 6 hours to play a team that's in your district.
Three times a year, like
Yeah. Yes. And then you're trying, and then I think the main goal was try to get more teams in the playoffs because top four from each district are going to go. So I think that was kind of their push point for this. And I'm like, then just expand the playoff as it is normal. But then you're gonna let 4 and 5 teams in, but other than NAS, but you're gonna have other 4 and 5 teams getting in.
like okay, right? Like, does that change anything?
Because like Indiana lets everybody in. And we were talking about like I love how you earn it in Illinois. I love like I was talking to him about it. They went 4 and 5. He said there's that part of him that would have loved to make the playoffs at 4 and 5 because he thought they had a good team. And if they got it in at 4 and 5, let's just put it this way: if Burlington Central would have went 5 and 4, it would have bumped Nas out. So he was kind of like,
Yeah, right. And then your whole you could have a good team and like, hey, a bad fumble or like a bad a bad refereeing decision, in one game basically is the difference between getting being in or being out.
mhm. But we were just talking about how like going to Lane Tech and telling the kids they earned the right to play at this amazing looking facility in the first round was awesome. Like they had to earn it. So that's kind of why we like the earning it part.
Yeah, if everyone makes it right, like so you're gonna have the number one seed, right? We'll just say 8A, right? Loyola playing some like 0-9 team. Like,
Yeah.
what does that do?
Right. So, and that's why, like, and then I love how every game matters. Like, there was a point we were 2-2 this year, and we were like, okay, we're at a tipping point now where
Mm-hmm.
we only have 2 games to play with here. You know, if we lose two more, then we get that, and then you're looking at 5 and 4 where we are on the bubble, or and so we love how each game mattered. If everybody makes the playoffs, why should I play the starting quarterback at the beginning of the season? Why not just let him? All that stuff's going to start happening.
Yeah, I started coaching in Wisconsin and we had a closed conference. So like your 9 games were the same 9 games every year, right? Like it's a 10-team conference, blah, blah, blah. I didn't know out of conference games existed because it wasn't a thing we did.
Right.
Until I got here and you're like, oh, well, now we play like 7 conference games and you get 2 out of conference. And
Mhm.
then if you're us, we're like, oh, we're just going to schedule conference opponents out of conference because we can. I don't
Okay.
know. Um, I don't love the district thing. I'm sure there are people that do. I'm sure it is hell for anyone south of what, Naperville?
Yeah. Anything in the south of like I-80 that cuts off into Aurora and stuff, anything south or east of that, it's gonna. But even for us, oh, Coach Yost, they at Burlington Central, and one of the proposed things for them was uh oh my God, why can I not think of it? Uh Ridgewood in them. So like
Oh God.
you're looking at going 2 hours for them to like play this game. And he's like, I'm driving by all these other schools to get there that we could play. That was the whole thing.
Yeah. And we go from like at one point in the CCL, like we would go up and play Marion Central in Woodstock. like
Uh-huh. Oh
damn,
God.
yeah, damn near Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And we'll also go south to Marian Catholic in Chicago Heights.
Oh,
And like basically we're playing everyone in between. And like down to Joliet and down to I've never played at Providence, but like it's an option.
that's still
Um,
far. That's New Lenox, right? Yeah, that's
yeah.
ridiculous. That's far from me. That's a 40-minute drive from here.
Yeah. And then on a Friday at 5 o'clock,
This,
we were in Joliet 2 weeks in a row, and I think it took us 2 hours to get there both times.
that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
But we were 2-0 in Joliet this year.
Well, you can take that with you. You can take that with you. Uh, the district thing, I don't know. I don't know. It helps out some teams because now they're forced to play the same enrollee type of schools, but it doesn't help everybody. Like, that's why our head coach liked it at first because in our side of the conference, we played Morton that has 8,000 kids. We played Leiden that has 4,000 kids. Downer South has 3 or 4,000 kids. Us and Willowbrook are the same. Us and Hinsdale South has way less. So like there's some that it balanced out, but those schools do have like we roll in with like 30 some varsity players and this team has 60 or 70. Is that fair? Because and then they're like, we'll get more kids out for football. I'm like, no, we have 1,900 and they have 8,000 or 4,000.
Yeah.
So
I
it
mean,
doesn't.
we were there like my first 2 or 3 years, we rolled out with the 28 kids on the varsity, but only like 15 of them should realistically be allowed on a football field.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Um, Thankfully, we're not there anymore, but I do understand the uh, immense challenge that gives you. And hopefully the run, I think for you guys, right? Like that kid that's like on the fence about football, he's like, all right, I'll give it a shot.
That's what we're hoping. We're hoping that a handful of kids that went to private aren't playing and they're like, oh, what if I go back? And it sucks because it took this for that to happen. We hope that maybe kids that were going to go to a different public school would stay. I have a feeling we have to do it again in order for that to happen. Because this happens to Addison if you look at their history, like, oh, they went to playoffs in 2011, then 2014, then they haven't been there since. Um, but COVID hurt us a lot. COVID really set it back. I feel like if it
Yeah.
wasn't for COVID, this would have happened a year or two ago. We're just catching up.
Uh, you want to hear some ridiculous private school shit?
Absolutely, I do.
Um, we are very fortunate. I love where I coach. Um, you know how people are always kind of complaining about facilities and wanting bigger and better things.
Mhm.
I mentioned we function a lot like a small university. We bought the bank across the street uh, and are transforming it into a weight room.
I don't know if that's awesome or weird. Part of me says awesome.
Uh, I think mostly awesome. There's like a bunch of office space too. Like there's going to be other departments moved over there. But like we're going to have our coach's office over there. Like we've got the weight room there. I've just started calling it the football complex. And no
Yeah,
one stopped me yet. So I'm going to keep rolling with that.
yeah.
But it's like right off of our practice field, right? So, our kids have to cross a main street to get to practice. But yeah, right.
York does that too. They have to cross the street to get to the football field. Everybody does it.
Now, on the flip side, we did have to end practice early 2 to 3 times this year due to gunfire.
Really?
Yeah, I was a shooting survivor. I got to tell my in-laws that.
Even where you guys are at, that happened.
Oh, like next to the practice field. Like all of a sudden we heard like pop, 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 turn, like you see the guy with the gun. You're like, we need to go right now. Like they're like, but what about my shoes? Shut up and go. You
I'll
can
buy
get
you a
them
new
later.
I'll buy you new shoes. Let's go.
But like the private school bubble, right? You can make fun of them as much as you want. The concept of danger didn't exist to them.
Right.
And we're like, get over there, we'll figure it out. And again, like it wasn't directed towards us, right? It was everyone was safe. Afterwards.
Right.
The police were there very quick. We also like the police stations across the street, right? So it's not like it didn't take long for there to be a police presence.
Right.
But that was definitely like an introspective, right? Because like you hear it and the kids are like, haha, it's gunshots. And this was the first time you're like, no, there's gunshots right there. Like we got to go.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
The worst thing we have is Clyde's Donuts factories in Addison. It's right by, so you'll just smell that cooking.
I say it smells too good.
That's I mean,
we get that on Taylor Street when we used to practice on the game field. There's a bunch of restaurants right that back up to it.
Yeah, that's the worst thing we had.
Yeah, it wasn't fun, and again, it's good to laugh about now. It was a little scary in the moment.
Like you said, it's one thing you saw it. It's not like you just heard it. And we're like, oh, that's
right.
That could be a car, that could be whatever, and then you saw it, you're like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Oh,
we have we have a couple former police officers on the staff, so it was fine. But also, you realize like these kids have very low like safety awareness.
Yeah,
but
they're in their bubble, their own little world.
It's the St. Ignatius difference.
Then there's
you pay more for that.
I couldn't afford it. Don't worry.
I couldn't afford it. I still can't afford it.
No, I was like, my kid will never go to private school. Well, why? It's great education. I was like, no, it's not that. I'm not paying for that.
I mean, you could start teaching in one, get that tuition discount.
I probably make more in a public school than a private school.
Oh, that I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure public school teachers make more than private. Now, the coaching world, no clue. Absolutely no clue how that works.
I think you guys probably make more than we do.
Well, it depends. Like the head football coaches of private schools are also like the campus liaison, so they get paid and however that works.
It took our head coach like 6 years to get a job in the building, and he's doing like IT. Like it's not like a cush like assistant athletic director liaison position, right? Like
right. I might be thinking more of Texas. That's their gig. Like, oh, you're in charge of making sure the weight room's clean. Like, here you go.
Well, because I think you have to be a district employee or a teacher of some sort to like coach in certain states.
You have to be a teacher to coach in Texas.
Yeah, which thankfully Illinois is not. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do this.
Someone told me they might be changing that in Texas because there is a coaching shortage.
I mean, there's a teacher shortage, right? Like there's only so many competent male teachers. Are you getting the reactions on Zoom?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know. Are you hitting something or is it just...
Ever since I started up this podcast thing again and Zoom updated, there's times I do something and I know it's recorded, and so I don't know what to do.
I'm going to have to look it up because one of the football podcasts I listened to actually had this happen and they figured out how to fix it.
Because it's happened a couple times, and every time I'm with somebody, they've never said anything. So I'm assuming I'm the only one that could see it, so I just left it alone.
No, I can see it. It's really funny every time.
I don't know what to do.
I'll have to look that up. It's something super dumb. Like it's a really easy fix. Also, they always tell you should definitely do tech support while on a live podcast.
I could care less. But this is really funny now that those other coaches could see that the whole time. How embarrassing. They're probably like, "Oh, what the fuck is he doing? He's so bored. He's messing around." I'm like, "No, I'm just moving my hands."
I didn't even see you like move. That's why I was like, is it like voice activated? Like,
I had my hand up and it probably thought it
oh
was up and then it started.
God, there's something with reactions, and I'm gonna have to figure out what it is. That's now gonna bug me for you.
God, it's so embarrassing. I've done like 8 of these and that's happened every single time. There was another one. It's not just thumbs up. There was another one.
I
How
well,
embarrassing.
I'm glad I can let you in on that secret.
They probably thought I did it on purpose, and I swear I did not.
I don't. I mean, it was like decent timing, I think. Oh, so I think at least on my Zoom, when I go to reactions and click my arrow, it says recognize hand gestures. Oh
I
no,
just do.
no, maybe not. Nope, never mind. That's not reactions. That's like a all right, whatever. We'll figure this out.
What did I just do? I did something. Every time I click raise hand, we switch sides.
Gotta love Zoom, right? Oh God. Oh, he's gone.
Oh no, what did I do?
Oh nope, never mind. I did I just make myself the biggest one?
You haven't changed. I have a clock up here though, if you haven't seen it.
Oh, there we go. Remove pin. I think I may have accidentally pinned myself. Ah,
God, it's gonna bother me now. I'm just clicking buttons and something bad's gonna happen.
it happens.
I'm just clicking
But
buttons now. Oh well, I'll figure it out. But God, how
yeah,
embarrassing. I just was fuck.
that's super funny.
I'm about to text all those coaches. Hey, if you saw a thumb bubble, I didn't do it on purpose. And the fact that they didn't say anything, I'm like, oh, it's not recorded either. It's just something that's happening.
Maybe they all listen to the same podcast I do, where the hosts were actively like talking about it. Here, there. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But so you're in basketball and then do baseball,
Yeah, basketball at the same school. I do baseball at York,
right?
but by the time this comes out, it might have already been done. I might be getting a softball gig at Addison.
Oh,
So I'll just do all 3 at one spot.
potentially. Congrats.
It's pretty much me and the head coach have discussed. I just don't like to do things until the school district says yes, because I
Yeah.
know how school districts work.
Yep. Been there.
If I were to tell the baseball coach at York, hey, I'm leaving, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, wait a minute, this isn't a stipend anymore or something. And I'll be like, oh, I gotta go back to York. And he'll be like, oh no, wait a minute, you left. So
Man, I don't know how you do it. I know I buttress like as soon as lacrosse ends. Like I've gone state title game on like a Saturday, and then we start football on Monday.
mhm.
Um, I can't imagine doing that the entire school year.
um, you know, it's because I don't know anything else, I guess. I don't know what
Fair.
it's like. Um, the stipends are nice, at least where I'm at too.
Yeah.
Because like some public schools don't pay well for stipends. This one does, especially because they gave me many years. Even if I've not coached the sport, they will just match it because you're in the school and they're like, well,
Yeah.
whatever. Softball, our head coach, the head coach, he's like, hey, I've learned this a long time ago. I'm not scheduling anything during spring break. And I'm like, really? And he goes, do you guys play baseball games on spring break? I was like, yeah, I play like five. And he's like, nah. He's like, I'm not even going to practice. And people can look at
Nice.
it the way they want. And he's like, I'm not going to. He goes, well, we might practice a day or two or whatever. He goes, but I don't schedule games. I was like, cool. And then apparently, I don't know if it's true in our conference, there's like a time limit on softball games, so they can't go for very long. And I'm like, this is awesome. Like lower level, varsity, I think can go far.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be JV. So he's like, JV, you're done. If the game's at 4:30, you're probably done at 5:30, 5:45. And I'm like,
Oh, wow.
okay.
Wait, we've been babbling for like 90 minutes. I didn't ask you how your wedding was.
Oh shit, it's been an hour and a half. Oh my God. I'm still married. So that's how it went.
Congrats. That's not easy.
It was fun. People always, we were kind of waiting for like something to go wrong. And maybe something did, and we have not found out.
Then
The
it was done right.
the worst things that happened were they didn't cut the cake to give out to people, which was fine. We didn't give a shit about that. They forgot the speech for her aunt to do the blessing, so it had to be read off of a phone. My groomsmen's watches didn't fit the morning of, so we had to drive to a place to get them to fit, and I was panicking. I was like, oh shit, but we figured it out. No, that was about it. So everything was just,
I, I still can't believe you pulled off a wedding during football season.
oh God, like I didn't even think about the game really because we were just doing things left and right. And then
I, I
I
get,
made,
yeah, I guess I can see that. I was like, bullshit. And then I was like, nah, you got enough other stuff to worry about on your wedding night.
well, then, we did a first look and then you take pictures right there and then you kind of separate for a little bit. I made sure my phone was turned off, locked away. I wanted nothing to even think about trying to figure out what was going on. What happened was I invited a guy I work with and a couple people I work with that don't coach football, but they coach other sports. They were there. And so after we started everything, we go around talking. He goes, you want to know the score? I was like, nope, don't even talk. He's like, you sure you don't want to know the score? And I'm like, I do not talk to me about the game. I don't want to know. I want nothing to do with it. So I didn't know anything until like I finally looked at my phone the next morning. I went that long and I finally looked. The sad part was it was just kids saying we let you down. I'm like, God damn it, that's not what I want to see. Like the coaches were just like, hey, we lost post game. I think it was like 20 something, like I don't remember. It was like a 10-point game, so it wasn't anything. Um, but the kids were like, "Oh, we let you down. We wanted the wedding present to be that we won the game or whatever."
Oh, brutal.
Oh, I made it to every practice though. I was at every practice except the Thursday because it's just a walkthrough. So I was there Monday,
Thursday before the
Tuesday,
game.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Thursday I wasn't there. We didn't practice that Saturday, so I only really missed the game. And the head coach was like, "All right, there's your one game. Never again the rest of your life. You're going to miss one." And I was like, "True." He's like, "Unless you have a kid on a Friday night, that'd be the only time you can miss." And I was like, "Okay."
Oh, my first year, I missed a playoff game because I had to go to a wedding.
Mm.
Not even my own wedding, but that was the if you don't go, we will not still be married kind of thing. Like my wife was in the wedding. But yes, I know how that goes.
Yeah, so I pulled it off. Um, honestly, like I honestly didn't. Like it bothered me in the morning maybe a little bit that I wasn't, but the fact that your mind is on the wedding and honestly didn't even think about it till the next morning. You're kind of like, oh yeah, it's because we got married on that Friday, so like, oh, it's Saturday. Oh yeah, oh yeah. So you're looking at it.
Well, and all your coaching friends are also coaching. So it's not like they were there to like remind you.
They had mentioned because I told them if you get done early enough to still
Right.
show up
Yeah.
because we went to the casino afterwards because it's all connected. So I was like, still feel free to show up. Well, obviously they didn't, but they made a comment. They were like, yeah, we'll just bring the mini bus with the coaches pulling up to the wedding and just honk the horn and just run out. And I'm like, that'd be awesome. He goes, would anybody be mad? And I was like, I wouldn't even care. By that point, it's probably like 10 o'clock at night. Nobody's
Yeah.
gonna,
No,
we're going to be having
that,
too much fun.
that would have been funny.
I wish they would have. Well, then the next funny part was it was Heritage Month or whatever, so people with Mexican flags and stuff like that
Oh,
was going on.
oh yeah.
So they had this parade going on, so they were honking their horns and stuff. And so people are like, "Are they honking their horns for you guys?" And we're like, "Yeah, we're good." And then we're like, "No, that's a parade going by right now."
I remember exactly which weekend that was.
Yep. And my parents that came up, they made a comment, and it sounded very racist. They're like, "What's up with all the Mexican flags?" And we're driving around Aurora, and I'm like, there is an abundance of them. I don't know. And then it clicked with us in that moment. We're like, "Oh yeah, wait a minute, it's this month." Sorry.
Yes. I used to have to like plan around it because I was like Lakeshore is going to be deadlocked. Like can't take Lakeshore home.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, downtown it gets a little dicey.
Yeah. So yeah, survived. Then you have Saturday to recover. And then her family from Ireland, we did a barbecue that Sunday, so had to go back at it. And then you go back to work Monday. It was Monday was a drag. I walked in, I'm like, I'm still recovering from
Oh
everything.
yeah. Oh man.
Like
Uh,
time we get home, we got home at like 4 a.m.
y-
That Saturday morning.
yeah. Uh have you done the honeymoon yet?
Nope, we are doing that was the other thing was I was gonna have to miss baseball games because it was gonna be in the spring. But if I do the softball gig, I already straight up told him, like, hey, I am going to be gone for 5 days for this. And he goes, I'll work around it. So
Yeah.
it's just already like, we're going to go to Cancun. That's where we're going.
Excellent. Sounds warm.
Never been there. We've never been there. All inclusive.
Oh.
We have been warned that we should probably go tan before we get down there because the sun is way different.
Yeah. That it's so I don't know if you get this. I get told all throughout the year, they're like, why are you so like I mean, tan sounds like uh, I'm more red than tan.
Mhm.
But it's like because I'm coaching, I'm outside all the time.
Yep. Yep.
So at least my face and my arms, I'm usually fairly good.
Yep.
But yeah, the rest of the body could be a
Same.
pre-tan situation.
Oh yeah, football. Once football starts, well, because of baseball too, I was outside. But once football hits in June, I get that first sunburn, and then like 2 days later, I'm good. Well, I still get
Yeah,
red. I don't even use suntan lotion really, unless it's when we go to our 7-on-7 thing to try to win money. I have to because you're outside all day. But if it's a normal
yeah,
practice, I don't put suntan lotion on. Like I said, my face, my hands, my arms, and my calves, perfect. My
yeah.
feet are as white as a ghost because of the socks, and the rest of my body, I look like Casper. And you have the farmer's tan. I'm the same way.
Yeah, the pre-tan might be a decent idea.
Yeah, somebody told her that, and she goes, "We may have to do that." And I said, "Well, one, I don't know what a tanning bed works. I don't know how it works. Never done it."
You pay people figure it out.
Well, she's like, "You just lay in a bed," and I'm like, "I know that, but also I'm 6'5". Do you really think this bed's going to support this 6'5" man?
I
Like,
think they make them standing up now. It's like a clamshell around you.
okay, well, then we'll figure it out. But yeah,
Yeah, I think you can figure it out.
because one of her friends years and years and years ago went to Cancun and just thought, "Oh, I'll just go down there and put suntan lotion on and be good," and got like blister from the first day and stuff. And I was like, "Oh," she's like, "Yeah, so we better tan before."
Yeah. Especially if you're only there for 5 days, you don't want to like mess it up the first day and then be in pain the next four.
Well, that was the next thing. Point was, how long do we want to be there? And so she texted people that have been there before, and they go, 5 days is probably the max. If you're there longer and you're just doing the same thing every day, like
Yeah. Depends if you're just chilling or trying to like go explore.
we're probably too afraid to go explore with the way the world is and how they look at us. So
Fair.
we're like, we'll just stay on the resort and just kind of
Yeah.
put it on a
Uh,
pool that comes right into the hotel room. But we were really afraid that if they're all connected to rooms, who's going to pull in and be like, "What's up?"
Yeah, it's all inclusive. You should just enjoy it.
Well, that's what we said. And then I was trying to get the bubble again, and it's not working. So I don't know what I did.
I don't know.
But yeah, so yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just one time and then it's done. Come on, thought bubble. Damn it. But yeah, wedding was great. Honeymoon's gonna happen.
Well, that's excellent. I hope that goes well for you guys.
Oh, it will. No offense to softball and baseball, it won't bother me to miss those things. Like football, I was like, screw it.
Football's different. You get
I'm
like 9 games a year.
I tried to.
Guaranteed 9 games a year.
Well, that was what I said. I was like, wedding and or honeymoon. I said, can we pick basketball or baseball? And the question was, what's the difference? I said, basketball, there's like 32 games, and baseball, there's like 32 games. So it's okay. And
Yeah,
because most likely they're not on a Friday night, so it doesn't matter.
also correct.
And like if I miss one, I've got 25 to make up for it.
Yeah, it's not gonna like hinge an entire season on.
No. Well, that the game I missed, we went 2-2, so that's where our tipping point was. And then when I came back, it was this is how this started, and you might laugh. I came back and they said something about me being back, and I was like, "Yep, you guys can't survive without Big Papa here to take care of business." And so for like the rest of the year, they were like, "Oh, there's Big Papa walking in."
Oh, which as an O line coach, I feel like is appropriate.
Well, that's what I told the old lineman. I'm like, "Oh, Big Papa's," because our assistant O line, our JV O line coach had to like take my spot, and he's never I think he has, but it wasn't like coaching varsity, so it was like the first time. So he was just kind of there to like
Yeah,
organize.
yeah.
And so that's what I hope he didn't take it the wrong way. I don't think he did because we still talk and I'm like, yeah, Big Papa's back. It's okay. Like I'm here. And because it's like all the run game stuff is mine and like the footwork's mine. So like for him to know everything ins and outs or like the tweaks of it or like the adjustments to make. Like one of our games inside zone, we double team everywhere. This one team we played figured out how to beat me. What if we slant everybody really, really hard?
Uh-huh.
And so at halftime, I was like, hey, we're going to have to go back to traditional inside zone. And the OC's like, what do you mean? I was like, we're all going to step the way you want, and we're just going to pick somebody up. So tell our running back, you better just get downhill and run and cut.
Yeah.
What happened? We started to cover people up. And I'm like, no offense to this other O line coach. He may not have thought that because this isn't his run game. It's mine. I know the weaknesses and I know where
Yeah.
I have to tweak it.
Yeah. You don't have the change up in the back pocket.
Right. Like that's the thing I was proud of ourselves this year was anytime a coach said, hey, what if we do this, this, or this? I'm like, we can, but let's not put it in. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, these are adjustments you're talking about. I had to define, make sure we knew what adjustments were
Yeah.
what.
Yes.
And they go, what do you mean? Like, okay, let's instead of blocking this guy, what if our because what if we come out and they're in a different defense? What if they're not doing what we're saying?
We get that every week.
Oh, I know you guys would with
Yeah.
what you're doing. Like, and I'm like, these are adjustments that we could use. So I made sure that because last year we would have put it all in. Everything would have been in. This year, I made sure to come in and say, adjustment, adjustment. It's in my back pocket. I had a note card of like my run plays and like what adjustments we could make. And I knew like if I have to, here we go. And, but yeah, so that's why it was Big Papa coming in. And then that became a play call for us. When I wanted them to cut, my senior O lineman knew when I wanted them to cut people. And so he would go, Big Papa. And they knew that's what I meant is to go cut them.
The line calls and things that we would either call things or like sign them in or like however you're communicating from the sideline. We had some good ones. I forget exactly how it went, but we were sitting in a meeting and we'll tag plays like to no end.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we were going like, midline. There was a word that like starts with an L and a word that starts with an F. And he's like, well, what do we call this? And if I'm like half paying attention, just look at it. I'm like, MILF. And the room like loses it. And I was like, what? Like, look, like the abbreviation works. So our tag was MILF.
Nice. Love it.
Like nailed it.
Love it.
I was like, unofficially, none of you kids know what this means, but
I couldn't take that to our kids. They'd be hood kids would run with that.
I mean, think of who I'm coaching. It was funny. We have a good time.
You probably have kids that are like, can we say that?
half of them, can we say that? Half of them, like, what is that? And then remembering American Pie came out like 20 years ago.
They don't know what that is. They
Yeah.
just our kids. You say that they're gonna be like, which one? Like that's what they would do. Be like,
Well,
ooh.
yeah, obviously. And everyone knows who the one mom is.
Um, our kids may not.
Oh, your coaching staff does, though.
Our coaching staff for sure. Our coaching staff have movies left and right phrases, and our kids are like, "What?" And we're just like from old school and all those movies.
Oh, yeah.
Just like, I think I said, "You're my boy, Blue," and the kids were like, "What?" And I'm like, oh, kids.
We, we have a nice group. There's like 5 or 6 of us that are all within like 2 years of each other. So we have a very good basis of our references.
Yeah, I think our oldest coach is like 43.
Oh, I can't say that.
I
Our
think.
oldest one's like retired.
Yeah, I think that's his old, like 40 or 42 somewhere in there. The head coach is 39. I'm 33. So like we all know. Even our younger coach who's like 28, he knows all those movies.
Yeah.
So he fits right in. There it is. It's
It's back.
how did I do that? I'm just gonna keep my hands up here. Maybe it comes up. This is Ricky Bobby. I don't know what to do with my hands.
Yeah.
How the hell did that happen?
Uh, this is too much fun, but I think if I stay on much longer, I'm going to get yelled at.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for coming back.
No problem. We always say shouldn't go as long as we do between them.
Oh,
Assuming
yeah.
assuming I don't bore your audience to death.
I thought you meant recording for a long time. I just looked. It's been a long time and I didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
I'll get
Yeah,
you.
we do all right.
It's Joe Rogan style, right?
I can talk forever, and we can go from football to weddings like pretty quick. So
Hey, if we get the live podcast going at the clinic,
we have to. I was thinking about that today. Actually, I've got a student who does a lot of our videos and media. If we need like a producer to actually like sit there and do all the tech stuff, might be able to bring him.
hey, they said they were going to DM me and they haven't.
It's a table. I can bring a table.
Well, I just don't want them to yell at me because they
Well,
got to make money.
for what, setting one up in the lobby?
That's true.
And there's enough. I assume it's at the same Oak Brook.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, there's enough like nooks and crannies in there. And also, like, who cares, right? Like, we could probably just grab random people, like what Pat McAfee does, like at the Super Bowl. Like, oh, hey, like, come talk to us.
Yeah. Hey, I got the thing and I can get 4 mics going at once. Like, we can get it going.
Well, I think we should definitely do it. I think it would be, even if no one else thinks it's entertaining or fun, I think we would.
I think it'd be hilarious.
So I definitely think we should plan to do that.
All right. That's how we'll end this. We might get a table at the Glacier Clinic. That's how we'll end this bad boy.
BYOT, bring your own table.
Yes, sir.